All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our free webinar on Lean Six Sigma. Just a few little housekeeping rules, I guess, before we start. It's going to be for about an hour, roughly. Could be shorter, could be a few minutes longer. At the end of that, there will be an opportunity to ask myself and my co-host Justine some questions. You may have seen advertised on the flyer a different person delivering this with me called Andrew. Unfortunately, Andrew wasn't able to make it this morning, so Justine has stepped in. Justine is my lead Six Sigma trainer here at Sales Training International and Middle East Training and Development. Justine has just got her picture on this morning because there's a storm where she lives and her bandwidth is very, very poor. So we've decided to knock her video off and just leave her picture on. So Justine, if you'd like to say hi to everyone so they can at least hear you.
Morning, everyone. It's probably a benefit that you can't see me.
So Justine's going to join me and jump in when she can, but I'll be running the majority of the hour on the Lean Six Sigma. So if you could mute your microphones if you haven't, that would be fantastic. It's not that we don't want to hear your voice. I will ask you to unmute them at sometimes. It's just that it's very hard if you can hear somebody's background noise when you're trying to listen. You're more than welcome to keep your videos on. I would love to see your lovely faces. It makes it much easier for me when I can see who I'm talking to, so feel free to keep your videos on. Throughout the webinar, I will be going through some information on Lean Six Sigma. There are ways to interact. It's not just all me talking. So there is a chat box, which I'm sure you've all been on enough webinars now to know where your chat box is. So if you want to ask any questions or if you have any thoughts, pop them in the chat box and I can come to those at the end and we can answer all of those. If you've got a burning question, you can put your hand up or you can come off mute and just shout out, hey, stop. Oh, and we have someone popping a little message in the chat box now. Will it be recorded to be shared later? Yes, it will, Craig. I don't normally record our free webinars, but for this one, I am going to record it. So yes, I am going to record it. For everybody who logged in, it will be recorded and you will have an opportunity to have that later. So if you want to chat in the chat box, if you want to come off mute and shout and say, hey, Tracy, stop, I have a question, that's absolutely fine. But if not, there will be time at the end. So with further ado, what I am going to do now is I am going to just fix my screen. There we go. And I am going to start. And I'm actually going to start, if that's okay, with a poll. Because I don't know what your experience is of Lean Six Sigma. We've been running a lot of these free webinars. And the first one we did at the start of all of this was quite a technical one about Lean Six Sigma. This is a more sort of general one. So there's a poll on the screen right now. If you could just click where you're at on that, that would really help me know where my audience is. So we got 9 people voted. We've still got another few to vote. If you could vote on that poll for me, I'm going to leave it open for another minute. If you could just hit a button for me. So, okay, so we've got a few, mostly we're looking at, I don't know much about it, or I know a little, but I haven't used it. And we have one person here who is a yellow belt. So there you go. I'm going to share those results with you now so you can see where we're at. So 10 people voted on that, and it's about a 50-50 split, which is great. The person who's the yellow belt, you may know a little bit about what I'm going to talk about today, and you can jump in if you want and help me. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so what is Lean Six Sigma? Let me start. Well, what we're going to talk about today is what is Lean Six Sigma, why companies need it and why they're starting to use it more and more, what are the benefits of using it, and we're going to give you an example of what a Lean Six Sigma tool is. And more importantly, at the end, everybody always says, what does it cost? So we'll talk a little bit, oops, what am I doing? We'll talk a little bit about the costs as well. So the first question I always get asked is, what's the difference between Lean and Six Sigma? Is there a difference? Well, there is, and let me go through this, and I may sort of call on Justine to explain a little bit more in detail about this at the end. So Lean and Six Sigma are two separate tools, but they both have the same goal in mind. So Lean is a tool that looks how to eliminate waste within a process and improve the process. Six Sigma is also looking at improving the process, but that's looking at reducing the defects within the process. So they're both doing slightly different things, but with the same end goal in mind in improving the process. And it says on here, you know, both have the same end goals. They both look at the waste. They both look at creating an efficient process. They look at improving the process for the customer. They look at improving the process for the company. They look at saving time, saving money, improving our product. So they all look at the same type of things, but use different methodologies and tools to get there. Lean's main focus, and you can have a look on the screen here, is looking at the 7 wastes within a process, whereas Six Sigma's main focus is looking at something called DMAIC. And you can use these two tools independently, and quite often we get asked, can you please run a course on, oops, what am I doing here? Can you please run a course on Lean? And yes, we do. And sometimes we get asked, can you just do a Six Sigma course? And you do. But we don't like doing that. And the reason we don't like doing that is because the results are better when you use the two methodologies together. So that's why you will generally find courses titled Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt, Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. So Justine, if I can maybe ask you to come off mute for a minute, and could I maybe ask you to explain the difference between perhaps the 7 types of waste and what they are, as opposed to the DMAIC option for Six Sigma?
Yeah. Another way, Tracy, I've just suddenly been thinking as you were talking and it came to light, a good way as well is Lean looks at ways to increase the flow. That's why we're looking at the 7 wastes. Okay. So by taking out the waste, so a process is a process wherever it is. It could be aircraft moving across an airfield. It could be a bread roll being made in a bakery. It could be a document going through a process in an office. So by removing a lot of the waste, so the inventory, how many different types of pieces of paper have you got to fill in to get the result? Can we narrow that process down? How long is a process waiting before the next person picks it up? Does one person have too much to do? One person have too little to do? Are we transporting it by hand, by lorry? Can we bring that closer? Motion, are we doing things we don't actually have to do with the process? It's standing back, looking in at the situation and getting an overall view. Okay. And the other thing I was going to say is Six Sigma focuses as well on achieving the consistent results. That's why by putting them both together, you've got a fantastic deliverable.
Okay. Okay.
Hand that back to you.
I think you've answered one question there in that, you know, it doesn't have to be a manufacturing tool, can it? You can pretty much use the 7 types of waste or the Six Sigma tool DMAIC on anything. Yeah, the companies I've worked within has ranged from Heathrow Airport to logistics companies to HR directorates to Wandsworth Prison. We have a slide coming up, don't we, in a minute, which actually explains the wide range. The DMAIC, how does that work then, this define, measure? How's that applied? We're now going to, by looking at measurements, we're going to measure each process. Okay. We're going to define what is existing. We're going to measure everything we possibly can measure and more. We're going to analyze all the data because it's
all well and good someone having an issue and putting a sticking plaster on it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get to what's caused it. Then we can make the improvements. And the critical thing is we can then put a control mechanism in. So if the process is weaning back to the old ways, it automatically flags up. And more importantly, DMAIC makes it easier to get it right than wrong first time.
So both of them are really looking at a process and really pulling it apart in detail.
Correct.
Really pulling it apart in detail. They're just pulling different, they're just looking at different parts of the process.
We're stripping it right down
Stripping
to
it right back. Stripping it right back, looking at everything we do, and not everything we do is going to be wrong.
No, there is so much that people do right.
So much that people do right. But this is
looking out the box to see the improvements that can be done.
And sometimes it's very small improvements, which we'll come on to later. But it's about, is there any small improvements within a process that we can make that gives us an overall better result? And we'll see how that can, even the smallest things in a minute. We'll look at some case studies at how the smalling things can have a massive impact.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you for that, Justine. I will come back to you. Okay. So let me just go on to my next slide in a minute. Here we go. And that takes me nicely onto my next slide, in how small things can make a big difference. What is the practical meaning of 99% good? If I was to say to any organization right now, you can deliver a process or a service or a product which is good or excellent 99% of the time, I think most companies would accept that. They'd say, that's brilliant. I'll take 99% good. Lean Six Sigma looks at this a little bit differently. Lean Six Sigma says 99% good is not good enough. We're aiming for 100% good. And this is what we were talking about on the previous slide, where we're picking apart something, really picking something apart and thinking, is there 1% in this that we could do better? And what does 1% difference mean? Well, let's have a look at this slide. 1% difference in the mail, in Royal Mail, for example, or in your national mail, would mean 16,000 lost articles of mail per hour. That's a lot of lost mail. It could mean unsafe drinking water from your water company operator for 15 minutes every day. It could mean 500 incorrect surgical operations per week. It could mean too short or long landings at most major airports each day. Probably not at the moment because there's not many flights operating, but that's a lot of wrong, long or short landings each day in normal times. 200,000 wrong drug prescriptions issued each year. Frightening. No electricity for almost 7 hours each month per household. 80 million, incorrect credit card transactions in the UK every single year. And that is a true figure, that. 4,050 incorrect telephone bills each month sent out. 540,000 incorrect call details being recorded by telecom sales companies each day. 50, this is the worst one, 50 newborn babies being dropped at birth every day. That is what a 1% variance can mean within a process. So this is how important Lean Six Sigma is. These figures here in this theory came from a gentleman called Jack Cranfield, and you can, if you go onto YouTube later, you can actually find a video on this, or if you go onto our onto our LinkedIn page later, we've got this video up on our company LinkedIn page, which really is about a 6-minute video, and he really does explain very well the difference and the variance between 99% good as opposed to 100% good. So that is the basis as to what Lean Six Sigma is based on, really. How can we get to being 100% good? Okay, so we've told you a little bit about the difference between Lean Six Sigma, but why should we do it as a company? Right now, it's probably one of our most sought after inquiries. So Lean Six Sigma was introduced, and Justine, you may have to help me in this. It was in the 1980s, was it? Lean Six Sigma was first brought about?
Yeah, end of
Yeah.
70s, 80s.
End of 70s and 80s. And it was initially brought about, if I'm right, by Toyota as a for their manufacturing plant.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was initially brought about by Toyota, used in their manufacturing plant. It was very popular for the first 10 years or so, and then it kind of went unpopular for a while. You didn't hear much about it. In the last 5 or 6 years, it's been our best-selling course. It really has been our best-selling course. Obviously, during COVID, everything went a little bit quieter. And now, when things are picking up again and we're getting inquiries in every day, one of the top inquiries, once again, is Lean Six Sigma. Why is that? Well, it's a really good tool to help companies get back to a better normal. Everyone's trying to get back to this. I hate this saying, new normal, but everyone's trying to get back to new normal right now. And what a lot of companies are thinking is, okay, we don't want to just go back to the way that we were doing things. We want to be better. We want to get back to a better normal. And the best tool to help you do that is Lean Six Sigma, because it helps you look at what you did do, look at what you would like to change, and look at how you could change that to be better. It helps you deal with an increasing, changing customer market place, and that is something that is happening all the time now. It's changed drastically over the last 4 to 5 months, and it's continuing to change. So Lean Six Sigma gives you a thought process and some tools to help you deal with that. It also helps you compete against the best. And I hate this word compete. You know, we do a lot of sales training, and I hate it when people always put posts up on places like LinkedIn, like, how do you beat the competition? I don't often think about the competition at all, to be honest with you. I think about doing the best that I can. I want our company to be the very best that we can. And that's what Lean Six Sigma helps you do. It helps you as a company and an organization and a team be the very best that you can. And in turn, that automatically gives you a head start on any of your competition out there. It helps you to establish standard functions and processes either across your team or your business, so that you're all working to the same mindset and the same thought process. It's a very, very good tool for developing the next generation of leaders. When we have people come on our Lean Six Sigma courses, everyone always says to me, who's the best person to come on this course? Is it management? I've got no problem with management coming on a Lean Six Sigma course. I always say to a company, if they're thinking about running a cohort of Lean Six Sigma, go away in your organization and have a look at a wide range of people. Doesn't matter what level they are. I've got no interest in the level of person who comes on a Lean Six Sigma course. Quite often, people who are at the lowest level within the organization and just doing the job on a day-to-day basis are the ones who have the better results on these courses. And it's a brilliant way for a company to send people on a course, people who they think have got a little bit of spark in them, people who they think have potential, and it really does show whether that thought process is right, because it really does grow that person and help their potential shine.
Tracy, can I interrupt one moment? Yeah. Just a great example. Heathrow Airport, they chose 10 people across the whole organisation, ranging from security guards to supervisors to senior management, and did a complete course. Okay. And because people then knew each other's names, and you had people at each level, when Lean Six Sigma was implemented, you had people to answer the questions and help everyone across the board.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. You know, if you're going to have a small group of people within an organization do it, it's better to spread it across the organization, because if you're then going to move it forward, you have, like as Justine said, a wide range of people who, from all backgrounds, all levels, who can answer questions within that area.
And it's not just 10 people they have there. They ended up with 75% of the workforce that were given at least one tool to be able to move forward.
Which is often the way, isn't it? It's a very engaging course. It's a very engaging subject, and it really motivates people. It helps you retain your key staff too. Staff like going on a Lean Six Sigma course because not only do they have really practical tools that they can take away and implement straight away, and they have to implement them to get the qualification anyway, but that word qualification, everybody gets a proper qualification that goes onto your CV. So staff really feel engaged and motivated and invested in. It helps you as a business achieve your business objectives. So, well, how does it do that? Well, I don't know what your business objectives are. Your business objectives might be to do things quicker, cheaper. They may be to increase customer engagement, retain more customers, get more customers, change your product. There's a whole range of business objectives that you will have. But the whole point of Lean Six Sigma is once the people have been on the course and learnt all the tools, they then have to go into the business and actually do a project, a real life project. And that project normally is linked within your business objectives. So they're going to do a project linked to the business objectives that helps them apply those tools and see how it works. So it's a brilliant, brilliant course and a brilliant tool. It helps you innovate and move with the times, because the people who do the projects within the organization start looking at things in a different view. They start looking at, well, we've always done it that way, and maybe there's a better way to do this. And they're given the opportunity to try a different way and see if it works and see what happens. I think the biggest and most important thing that companies like from Six Sigma is the bottom one. Look, I've put it in red and I've put it really bold. It reduces costs and save time. So when we go into an organization and somebody wants Lean Six Sigma, normally what happens at the start is they choose, as Justine said, 10, 15 people, and they try it out. And they put these 10, 15 people from all walks of life, all different levels, all different departments on a course. And they come into the classroom, or they do it virtually, whatever it is the case at the moment. They do their learning, they get all the tools, and then they have to do a project in the organization. The project size and the duration of the project will differ depending on whether they're doing yellow or green belt. Most people start on yellow and then go on to green. Some companies start straight on green. We can talk about that later. But they then have to do a project, and that project will be having to apply all of the tools that Justine or one of her colleagues have taught them in the classroom. And each week or each month, depending on the size of the project, Justine will check in with them and they'll have a look at what they've done, and they'll check whether they're using their tools properly. They'll check how the project is going, and they will check whether it's on time and they are looking to save the right amount of money. Because the one thing with Lean Six Sigma is it's not just about changing a process and using the tools, it's about saving money as well and reducing costs. So if you're doing yellow belt and you have to do a project, the project will be between 6 and 8 weeks. Sometimes we extend it to 10 for some companies, and you have to apply all the tools that you've been taught and make a cost saving to the equivalent of 10,000 UK pounds. Now, if you're doing green belt, you come and do your classroom, then you go back and you do your project, which is normally between about 4 months. We have let them go to 6 months on occasion, but 4 months is the norm for a green belt project. And on that project, as well as using all the tools appropriately and correctly, you have to make a cost saving of the equivalent of 50,000 UK pounds. Now, from a company's point of view, can you imagine that? You've got 10 or 15 people going to do a green belt course, learning new skills and new tools that are going to be really valuable for the company, but they're also going to be doing a project in-house, working on something that needs working on, and they're all going to be saving a minimum of £50,000 each. Now, that is a no-brainer for most companies, isn't it? Because they're getting skilled, qualified staff who can have tools that can be used within the wider organisation, and this member of staff is also going to save a fortune. So that is why companies should do Lean Six Sigma. It is really, really important. It is not just for manufacturing. It's not just for project managers. It's for anybody. And here's my next slide to prove that to you. These are some of our clients in the last couple of years. Not all of them, I couldn't fit them all on there. I just wanted to do a visual for you so you can just look at the breadth of organizations who have done this. We've got airports in there, we've got banks. It's really popular for banks, really popular for banks. We have got Just Eat. We've got telecoms companies. We're doing a big project at Vodafone. Logistics companies in there. We had a duty free, which we're still working with. Pharma companies. Look at this one. We've even got a cupcake company in there. We've got the Ministry of Defence, oil companies. Oh, goodness me. I mean, I literally couldn't put them all on there. So I wanted you to sort of see the wide range that it's moved from manufacturing now into all organizations. And here's a couple of examples here of some organizations that have done this well. And then I'm going to get Justine to talk through a case study in a minute. So Capital One used the Six Sigma methodology very successfully to look at tailoring a new range of credit cards. And they wanted to introduce some credit cards, and they wanted to sort of use a formula to work out what was the best one to introduce. And they used Six Sigma for that. Starwood Resorts used it on a completely different way. They used it to maximize the revenue of the treatment rooms that, you know, in their spas. 3M have used it to improve the efficiency when they're sourcing their materials. BP used it for pre-screening personnel. So that was a really interesting use of it. Dubai Duty Free, well, they've used it for a whole range of things. But there's one very good example here from a recent course that Justine run, which was right in the middle of the crisis. And they've managed to, they used it to help manage the global crisis that we're in, which caused a 30% drop in their business. And they redefined their customers and found new ways of introducing revenue, and one project alone within that created costs, was created more revenue in the terms of 2 million cost savings. So, you know, different companies use this in a completely different way. Justine, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing with Dubai Duty Free recently, and the different types of projects or the scale of projects that have happened there.
Yeah, Dubai Duty Free has actually been an exceptional one, because some of the projects we started with were in January, and then it became evident with the pandemic what was happening. And we saw a different customer profile coming through. So different terminals catered for different passenger types, whether it was the country they were from or anything like that. Now, if you're changing terminals for aircraft movements, the passenger profile is changing to a different terminal. So you've got a terminal to get up for the Chinese, and then you're going to put the Indians through there. You've then got a different passenger profile with their spend. So we actually identified this very much early on, before all the flights stopped. And we started changing the stock within the shops, etc. We identified so many different trends through collating data. You've never seen so much data in your life that we collected. And it was an absolute eye-opener. And rather than losing money left, right and centre, we did slow that down and manage savings. And we've also designed a training, a manual really. So when a pandemic or extraordinary circumstances happen, they now have a take off the shelf manual to know what they're looking for, how to identify it, how to implement it. Very straightforward.
Fantastic. And all that was just done on a Lean Six Sigma course with graduates, new starters into the organization. starting at the basic level of yellow belt. And do you remember earlier on I said to you, on a yellow belt, these are just short projects and they're expected to save the equivalent of approximately £10,000. One of them alone saved 2 million. So that's how it works. So before I go on to an example, a more detailed example, people always say to me, okay, so how do we go about and do this? If you want to take a yellow belt qualification, a yellow belt course, normally when we're doing that in the classroom, face to face, that is between 1 and 2 days, depending on the duration of the day and the number of people we have in the classroom. So yellow belt training in terms of sitting there and learning the tools is between 1 to 2 days. And that's whether it's in the classroom or on virtual. Green belt is actually 5 days. So that's a whole 5 days of learning tools and theory and processes. Now, these courses are very interactive and they get you practicing and using the tools throughout that. We're also going to be talking to you on those courses and saying, whilst you're learning these new tools, whilst you're learning these new methodologies, you've got to start to think about a project that you want to do within your organization. Now that project, you know, will differ in time and will differ in cost savings depending on whether it's yellow or green, as I said earlier. And we'll start to discuss your ideas and those projects on the course. So you'll have 1 or 2 ideas to then take back to the business and say to the business, are you happy for me to do this project? So we normally give you about a 2-week gap between doing the training and starting your project so that you can agree it with the business and start thinking about, who am I going to need to help me with this? Do I need any support? So you have a gap about 2 weeks. Then your project starts. Now, people always say to me, how am I going to have time to do a project as well as do my own job? It doesn't take that long. And Justine can correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I normally say to somebody between 3 and 5 hours a week is about right to be working on your project. Is that about right, Justine?
Yes, it is. And in actual fact, if we've chosen the project with the company mutually, the data, etc., that they'll be collating will actually come in part of their day job anyway.
Good, thank you. Yeah, so sometimes the companies will work with us and choose the projects, and then they'll already have a lot of the information. Other companies allow their staff to just choose which project they want and they'll just sign it off. So you're only looking at about an extra 3 to 5 hours of work, I would say, per week at the most. And then you will meet with your trainer virtually on a call. If it's yellow belt, you'll normally meet once a week or once every 2 weeks if we've extended the time. If it's green belt, we normally meet once every 3 weeks, and you go through what you've done on the project so far. You explain how you've used those tools, and the trainer will look at what you've done, they'll look at how you've used the tools, and they'll say, yes, I'm happy with that. I can sign the first stage off now. You now move on to the next stage, and they'll handhold you and walk you through the project. And at the end of that time period, you will have got a professional qualification to put on your CV. You will have completed a project which will have made a cost saving of at least 10 or 50,000 pounds, which is awesome. And I'm telling you now, they always save way more than that. And you'll have probably changed a process or something within the organization which will be changed forever, which is great, which is awesome. So that is how the Lean Six Sigma works. I've got a question in the chat. I'm just going to have a look. How does the project work for individuals who want to do the course but are self-employed? Oh, that is a really, really good question, Angela. I'm trying to think of the nicest way to answer that. There are lots of companies out there. You can go online after this course and type in Yellow Belt Six Sigma or Green Belt Six Sigma, and you'll find lots of training companies online who will have an online course, and it'll all be self-study. So you'll literally have to read loads and loads and loads and loads and answer multiple choice questions and it's still the same amount of time, because, you know, the duration of the amount of work you've got to do is irrelevant whether you're in the classroom or just reading it off the internet. It's still 5 days for Lean Six Sigma, whether, sorry, for Green Belt, whether you're doing it in a class or online. But with the online ones, all it is you're just reading loads and loads and loads and loads of information. They'll get you to do a really big exam at the end of it, and you'll pass or fail that exam. But you won't be officially qualified because you won't have done the project. And to be officially Lean Six Sigma qualified, you need to do a project as well. Now, a lot of companies will just give you a certificate to say, yes, you've done the actual training part of it, but it's really not much use until you've actually practically tried to apply it in a project. There are a couple of companies out there who will do an online course, which is a mixture of self-study and virtual, and then they'll use a fake project, and you can do that. I'm working with Justine at this moment in time. We're working on it in the next this week and next week, to see if we can launch a public or an open green belt. We think we can. We think we can. We've got it worked out so that we can do the 5 days of learning online, and it'll be a mixture of Justine being live online and you having to do some self-study. But the project, we don't agree with doing a fake project. So the people who come on board to our open course, which we're going to launch in the next few weeks, so watch this space, the people who come on board with our public course will still have to do a project. Now, you said, I think, that you were self-employed, which is great. You should be able to do the project within your own business then. And if somebody is not self-employed, but they if somebody's not self-employed but they work within an organization, but it's just them who wants to do it on their own, they can still do it, but they'll have...
cheap enough, but then
oh,
if you have to change the whole
not
unit, then
let me just knock him on mute. Somebody will then have to go away and do a project within their organization. The one thing that we're not keen on doing within our organization is just giving a qualification for the sake of a qualification. That's not what Lean Six Sigma is about. Lean Six Sigma is about getting a bunch of tools that you can learn and practically use. So I hope that answers your question.
Can I step one little bit there,
Please.
Tracy? The reason Tracy and I are spending so much time trying to get this right is not only to benefit the customer, but it's also our reputations, because I've got a really good reputation globally now for what I do, and whatever I deliver has got to be right. And that is why we are spending so much time and effort in trying to get this right. Mm-hmm. And if we're not happy with it, we won't be doing it. And that's, hopefully you'll see the effort and the time we're putting into it.
So hopefully we shall have that ready within the next couple of weeks. So how much can you save as a company? Well, I've just put a few, oh gosh, what have I done there? Give me 1 minute. There we go. I've just put a few examples on here. So there was a UK airport that we did the course for. They put quite a few people through it, yellow and green. They saved over £20 million across two years. Lane O'Rourke, 28 million across 2 years. There's a bank there, 8 million across 3 years. We're still working with that same bank, and they're going to be doing a lot more. Plastic bottle maker, 1 million. BISA, aviation company, Vodafone, a logistics company, an oil company, that's just in our first 6 months with them. So you can see the massive savings an organization can make. We have a money back guarantee for organizations. We say, if you buy a Six Sigma course from us, so you put 15 people through a Six Sigma course, and they and that course costs you, off the top of my head, £10,000. If those people don't save your company a minimum of £10,000 by the end of the duration, we're going to give you the difference back. We've never had to give that money back yet, because we save a lot, an awful lot. Oh, someone's just come off mute. There we go. So here's an example of a project. This was in a logistics organization. Justine, I'm going to get you to just talk through that for me, if you would.
Okay, I'm going to be really quick talking this through, Tracy, because I know that we want to finish on the hour.
We do want to finish on the hour, yeah.
I was asked to go into a logistics company. I won't name the name. They had a severe problem with parcels getting lost, parcels getting broken, parcels not arriving on time, etc. I had a team of 12 students in the classroom, and we identified small projects for them all to work from, which actually throughout the week we identified that the best way was we were going to work together and on one project, because the project was increasing the flow from parcels arriving one side of the building to being processed and leaving. As you can see, the parcels were taking 7 hours 45 minutes, and we got it down to 1 hour 10 minutes. During that, we identified the items that were being broken during the process. We're going to a third party, and they were selling them all on eBay. We had parcels not being charged for, out of size. It was an absolute mess. You had 24 inlets into this building, and people would take one parcel off a lorry and walk the other side of the building with one parcel, and then go back to another lorry and get another parcel. It was a complete, it was a nightmare. But as you can see, within that time, we did save them £3,500.
Million?
Sorry, million.
3.5 million we saved, not thousands.
3.5 million. We saved on time, we saved on process. The customer satisfaction was excellent. The ratings went up, and it still continues now, the efficiency, because we left the staff and the management team realizing the best way to do it.
Before it is 1325. Now it is 15 dirhams.
I have somebody not on mute. Manuel, can I ask you to mute? Manuel, can I ask you to mute, please?
We get that.
Yeah, we get that.
I'm trying to get Manuel to
You
mute.
do right, right?
He won't mute.
Yeah, we do. You know, my house, this is my house.
Give me
house.
1 minute. Let me
This
just
is
mute
right.
Manuel.
I've done it for you, Tracy.
Have you? Thank you very much, Justine. I couldn't get Manuel to mute. He's obviously not listening.
If anyone wants more details, because obviously this is a very quick talk.
It is a very quick
go
talk.
through everything.
Yes.
But the satisfaction, not only for the company, but personally, was just phenomenal.
And I think that's a really good point you made, Justine, that it's not just a one-off saving. It's not just a one-off, oh, by the way, our damages have been reduced by 80%. Our customer score have gone up by 48%. It hasn't gone up to 48%. It went up by 48%. This is an ongoing thing for that particular organisation, who are a global organisation. So that's the impact that, you know, one small group of people can have as a result of being on a Lean Six Sigma course.
But also by engaging the staff that were actually doing the job themselves.
Exactly.
And making them realise that they were the experts.
And often, you know, senior management, as great as they are, don't always know what's going on a day-to-day basis. So they're not the best people to look at a process and change it.
Exactly. And by getting the staff to actually come up with the new processes through the data themselves, they take ownership and pride,
yes,
and continue the delivery.
Fantastic. Right, I'm going to move on to the last bit now, because we said we would share with you one of the tools that we use. If I can just, sorry, here we go. One of the tools that we use within a course is called root cause analysis. It's a big subject. There's a lot of tools within the root cause analysis. It is what it pretty much says on the box. It's looking at the root cause of a problem and finding out what's wrong with it and why it's wrong and what we can do about it. And as I say, we use lots of tools. We use up to 20 different tools within a course. So you go with a whole little kit bag full of tools on a course. But one of the tools we use is something called 5 Whys. And just to break up my voice with you now, I'm going to show you a couple of minutes of video. You should be able to hear the sound. We tested this morning. It doesn't even really matter if you can't hear the sound. It's a scribed video anyway. So just bear with me 1 minute while I just play you a short video, and then we'll wrap up and we'll go to questions. Well, I love that video. And it's a true story. It's a true story, that video. I have a little question here. Somebody else obviously likes the video. Amazing. Yes. How amazing is that? And it's a true story. And it's mind-boggling to think that some companies, and it's not just some, I think a lot of companies find a problem and just poof, go with the first option without thinking about it. Very nice, enjoyed it. Yeah, really, really good video. And it worries me greatly that these big organizations that we go into are the worst, really, in that, you know, they're doing something and they've been doing it that way for years, or they have a problem and they just call in a really expensive expert, and that expensive expert says, move the airport. And these things happen. And literally, by having Lean Six Sigma experts within your organization who can look at processes, who can look at problems, who can run projects, who can look at new products, who can look at customer flow, customer satisfaction with a different mindset, it can make all the difference, all the difference. So I'm going to open up to some questions in a minute. Before I do, I just want to go through this slide. So You'll get some further information. Anyone who logged onto the webinar will get a copy of the webinar. We do free webinars every single month. We were doing them twice a month since the start of lockdown, but we've got really busy again recently, so we're now doing them once a month. Our next free webinar is happening, I think, on the 16th of September, and that will be all around emotional intelligence. So how do you find out about our free webinars? Well, if you look on the screen, if you get your little mobile phone and go up to the QR code on the screen, that takes you to my LinkedIn profile. If you connect to me on LinkedIn, please, if you connect to me, just put, you've connected to me, just put like free Six Sigma webinar or something like that, so I know who you are, because I don't connect to generally people that I don't know. So if you just connect to me on LinkedIn, I'll patch you through to our business page on LinkedIn, and that's where we advertise our free webinars each month. Fatma, I know you've raised your hand. Have you got a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I don't know where's the QR code.
It's at the bottom of this screen. It's that blue box. Can you see the blue box at the bottom?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then if you put your phone on camera mode and just hold the camera in front of it, it will take you to it.
Will I get a copy of this slide?
You do. Yes, you do get a copy of this slide. Yeah. So you're welcome, Fatma. All of our free webinars are advertised on that page. So if you connect to me, I'll patch you through to it and you can see them on there. We also offer bespoke webinars and virtual learning on all a massive range of subjects, and we're back to doing face-to-face learning again now, folks. So if you've got any needs that you're looking at within your organization and you want to just chat them through with us, or if you would like to chat through further Six Sigma, let me know and I can arrange a quick Zoom call with myself and Justine. There's lots of free information on our websites too, so go along to the websites. There's free manuals on there, blogs, fact sheets. You've got my email down there too. Don't be a stranger. Email me with any questions about this or anything else that you may have to do with learning and development. So I'm going to move on now to questions and answers. I'm just going to check the chat box. Got it. Yeah, you got it right. Okay, so listen, that's the end of the webinar. I have finished with 5 minutes to spare, which is good for me. And I'm going to open it up to questions and answers now. If you've got no questions and you don't want to hang around and see what people ask, you're free to log off. And I thank you so much for your time. If you do have questions, unmute yourself and shout out or raise your hand or pop it in the chat box. Me and Justine are here for you. Oh, we're all quiet. Oh, we're all quiet now. We're all quiet.
Well, Tracy, I can add something.
Please do.
About my background, just so everyone knows that I wasn't brought into this as a classroom trainer. I'm actually a practitioner. Mm-hmm. So I've actually implemented multiple projects globally for organizations, and a process is a process. Mm-hmm. Wherever it is, it always has a start, a middle and an end.
Yeah.
So this works throughout any company or organization.
It does. And I think that's a really good point, Justine, that, you know, you're not just a Lean Six Sigma trainer, you're a master black belt and you go into organizations and sort out their issues for them. So I think that's a really good point, that when you come on a classroom with us, you don't just get a quick online tick box exercise with Six Sigma, and you don't just get someone who's just recently become a green belt or a black belt running the course. You get actually a lifetime practitioner who's headed up this within multinational organizations. So thank you for that, Justine.
Maybe it's beneficial that people realize I was airfield manager of Heathrow Airport for 12 years.
She was the airfield manager of Heathrow.
And then I've worked for the United Nations, etc., on numerous global disasters. So I've got a bit of a background.
Good. Anybody got any questions before we stop the webinar? If anyone's got any questions, ask now. If not, I thank you for your time. You'll get a copy of this and you're free to log out.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Oh, I've got a question here. There we go. Oh, no, I've just got a thank you. Thank you.
No, there's a question, Tracy.
Oh, here we go. Hi, Tracy. Webinar was great. Should you complete green belt before you move to black belt? I would say yes. I don't think you have to complete the yellow belt before you go to green belt, but I think starting black belt from scratch without any previous knowledge would be step too far.
Yeah, definitely agree.
You know, ideally you'd do yellow belt, wait, do green belt, wait, do black belt. But you don't have to do the yellow belt first. Some people do go straight into green belt, but don't ever go straight into black belt. It's too much. Anything else? Oh, I don't know whether Angela's got a question. I can see her lips moving, but she's on mute. No, she's talking to someone else. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time, everybody. Please feel free to log out. I'll stay back until you've all logged out in case there's any further questions, and I'll send you some more information. And please connect to us on LinkedIn so you can see more of what we're doing. Thank you. Another question here. Oh, thank you, Tracy. Bye. Thank you. Bye.